Hi there class, and today we're going to be talking about lesson 2, which is keyframing and layers. Today we're going to be doing messing with attributes that adjust the, and messing with the keyframes that adjust the position, scale, rotation, and the opacity of certain objects and shape layers. And after each small section, I'm going to pause so that you can work along with what you're watching. So it's going to be a step-by-step activity. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new composition. I'll create a new project. No, I don't need to save this. I'm going to create a new composition setting. We'll name it test. And so here we're starting off with a brand new project. And we're working in this composition test. First thing I want to do is create a new solid layer. And we're just going to name this background. And it will be red. We can change it to lighter red so it's not so bright. Cool, so we have our background. We're going to lock it here in this layer settings, create a new solid. Oh, and by the way, how I'm getting to that also is I'm right clicking on the mouse and going to new. You can also go to layer and add a new layer up here. So we're going to create a new solid and change the color to something, I don't know, something that'll contrast, so like a blue. Cool. So here we see this new layer took up the whole composition size. What we're going to do is create a shape in this. So to do that, we could either click on one of these shapes and pretty much apply it, or we can do, I think my preferred method, which would be to create your own shape, because I think that's more relevant towards what people do. In this example, I'll just draw a star. Cool. So we see our stars here. It doesn't look that great, so I'm going to go ahead and click. Well, I still have the layer selected. I'm going to adjust these points so it looks a little bit better. It's not going to be great, but it's going to be okay for what we're doing. Cool. Check it out. We have a star. So you already created a shape. So we're going to click off of this area and in this timeline area in a gray, and it'll deselect everything that you're working on. So when creating that pen tool, you see that it's creating a mask, and we'll go over masks in another lesson because it gets a lot more complicated than just what I did, but we saw that that pen tool created a path that only revealed what was in that shape path. So here we see that some of these attributes like the mask and the transform tools are available, but if we hit U, they go all away. And so we want to rename this layer by clicking on the return key on your keyboard and renaming it star. This is just a better way to organize all your layers instead of just having shape layer green, shape layer red, blue, and so on. So now what we want to do is set keyframes and mess with the attributes on this thing. So to access that, we took a quiz before that taught us all the keys to all those attributes. So position is P. If you hold down the shift button, it will allow you to stack up more attributes on each other. So S is scale, T is opacity, and R is rotation. So here we see all of our attributes that we're going to be changing and the values that we could change. Over here is our timeline and our time indicator. Your time indicator is really important to applying your keyframes. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on these stopwatches, and this allows you to add keyframes to this shape layer star. So here we see that our values are all at this point, and there's keyframes all set here. We could adjust our time indicator over to around 2 seconds and start messing with the values, and what you see is when I mess with that value, it applied a keyframe here. So this stopwatch really starts the process for allowing you to place keyframes on your timeline. Let's say at 2 seconds we want it to get really small. We want the rotation to just go crazy, so go 360 once and another 130 degrees, and then we just want it to be half opacity, so we'll change that value to 50. So if we play back, we see that the animation is following our keyframes that we set. What you can do with keyframes is adjust them manually, and this allows you to get more customizable things going on. What you can do also is you could copy certain keyframes and apply them at different locations by just simply Command C or Control C and by pasting Command V. And so you can mess with that, and let's see if I'll play it back, and you can see it goes back up. And let's say you want it to not die down, but you want it to die down a little bit, and then your shape layer to reveal at the end point. So when you play back, you see it goes away, and now it comes back and it's just floating up. So this is a very simple way of applying values to your attributes. And with this concept, you could virtually do pretty much anything. So this concludes our lesson today with applying all these things. Now what we want to do is just export. So we could just go to the render queue, and we want to change output. We could just keep it lossless, and we're going to just save it on the desktop in our folder. Then all you have to do is render, and there you go, you just created your first animation.